Okay, almost half of you have missed number 13. So this is out of the people who've been scanned, and we've got about a little over half of y'all scanned. So we're going to make sure we go over number 13, and most of the questions that covered both passages are ones y'all have trouble with. So we need to kind of figure out why that is. So I want you to think about what's causing you to miss it as I'm going over this. Okay, our passage is, or the question is asking, both, key here is both, Dr. Sarah Parsak and Ben Kassira are interested in sites. Now, when you see the word sites, that could mean a couple of things. It could mean literally locations, or it could mean like websites. So you want to kind of skim and see what are they talking about. And since it's archaeology, you can probably assume it's sites, but there was some mention of websites. So look at this. So they're talking, if you skim these, you can see we're talking about locations in the world. So sites that have these criteria. Now, are they looking, let's skim these so we can kind of know what we're looking for when we go back. They're talking about countries around the world, built during a certain time period, things that are places that are lost cities or at risk of being destroyed. Now, all of these were mentioned in one or both of the passages, all of them. The key is, which one of these apply to both of these people? Where'd my mouse go? There we go. Both of these two people, and is something that is in both passages. So you should go back in the passage. I have to go back in the passage as an adult who's already passed this test millions of years ago. Okay, I have to go back in the passage to see. So we're going to go see what types of sites we think those two people are going to be interested in. So go back to the first passage. Oops. And this is the passage where we talk about this person, Dr. Parsak. Now, you should have your main ideas. Mine keep getting erased, but she is looking for, this is generally introducing her, but then later when it talks about places that she goes, where does it talk about the kinds of places she goes? And here she has discovered 3,000 settlements, 1,000 tombs, 17 lost pyramids, and she couldn't believe they could locate so many sites over Egypt. Okay, so all that tells us is she's been in Egypt a lot and a lot of places. So let's keep looking. Satellite photographs. Where does it talk about her? Down here, I believe. One of Parsak's most exciting moments was the discovery of a 3,000-year-old house in Tanis, a location made famous by Raiders Lost Ark. Parsak believes that many more sites are yet to be found. These sites will still need to be physically located and uncovered. Okay, does that mention anything that she's particularly interested in? Not necessarily so far. Oh, we have a Parsak hopes something. What does she hope? This was that we would get young people involved. So does that talk about particular locations? Not necessarily. Satellite technology offers possibilities beyond Parsak's Egyptian discoveries. So they're talking about beyond her discoveries. And it talks about these cities that were, remember, these are the lost cities that were found or are about to be found. They have not quite found Atlantis, but there's a lot of indications. And then they remember the Ubar, they have found evidence of. So it goes on to talk about them wanting these unfound kind of places and so on. Perhaps someday they will uncover. So we've skimmed over, don't see a lot of help other than she's talking about in Egypt, and we've talked about places that are kind of hidden, a lot of places that are hidden. The most exciting moment was discovering this one, so that's kind of important about her. Let's look in the next one. We're talking about a different person. Okay, now, so one of the things that could be tricky about finding this person is that most of this passage is not about a person, the Kassira person. I think it was Ben Kassira, but the first part talks about this company called Syark, and then it goes on, Syark's mission, etc., and we never see a person mentioned until we get right here. And it says, we are very excited about our partnership with the Park Service to better tell the story of an important site like Fort Laramie, says Ben Kassira, Syark's founder. So if he founded this company, then what could you say about information in this passage about him? I mean, about Syark. What would that also be related to? Think for a second. Okay, hopefully you came up with the fact that if he founded it, then you can say that Cacyra, I'm just going to put his C-A-C-Y-R-A, equals psi arc. So if psi arc values something, then probably Cacyra does, because he's in charge of that company and he founded it. So you can pretty much say anything that they say about psi arc probably is what he agrees with or would want to do. Okay, so remembering our question, what are they both interested in? So in other words, over him you can actually say this is the same as psi arc. Whereas over here, this person was talked about as their own entity. Here, he's connected to all the psi arc stuff. So what can we say about psi arc and then Cacyra? Okay, we looked at the majority, like especially here when they talked about what happened to our passage. Whoa! Okay, don't know what happened to the passage, but it's back now. Okay, so right here when they talked about choosing their sites and their mission, this is where your main ideas help. You're probably going to find out what this guy values in the area where it talks about his mission and choosing his sites. That's what he values. Okay, so their mission was to collect and store records of cultural heritage sites all over the world. They're trying to locate things that are at risk of destruction, which he mentions down here when they choose risk of being destroyed. Remember, that's in a couple places. They're also looking for things of cultural significance. And they're using the specialized photography, and they're trying to preserve these properties. So let's see if we've gotten enough information yet to answer the question. Oh, I know what else we need to look at. They talked about sites. So what kinds of sites? They're looking for ones that are being destroyed. They're looking for, how about here? Psi arc has documented locations across the globe. So that's locations. That's where they go. They also go all over the world. What about, where all does this person go? Parsec. Does she go to a lot of different places or only in, we mentioned Egypt a lot, but is that the only place? Because we have this house they found in Tanis. Then they also talked about, it says beyond her Egyptian discoveries, it goes on to talk about Atlantis and other places. So they are hoping, or Parsec is basically talking about other places as well. So are they willing to go to locations anywhere around the world? Both of them. Do we see any evidence that Parsec and Cacyra only stay in one place? No. So this is a maybe. Are they looking for things built during the current century? Now, to be clear, the current century means in the 2000s. Meaning it's the 21st century because we had a whole century before we went to 1000. So that means the current century is 2000 to 3000. So that means in the last 16 years. So are they looking at things in the current century? No. So if you chose that one, guys, that's bad. No. You should know that the current century is right now. Thought to be lost cities. Are they both looking for lost cities? Okay, let's think about that. The first person, Parsec, again, you could do a chart over here. You could do Parsec and Cacyra if you wanted to, and do a little chart. Because then this one would be X's. This one we're saying still possible. Lost cities. Who looks for lost cities? Which one? Go back in the passage and look and see if you're not sure. Because don't try to remember it. It is not a memory game. You actually have to go back and see who's looking for lost cities. Okay, the second passage, actually, which is Cacyra, was looking for, they're trying to document things that are not lost. They're just documenting things that are disappearing. So whereas the first one, she was looking for things like Atlantis and places that are lost. These are already lost. They're trying to find them. Here, second passage, they are trying to record things before they get lost. Okay, so lost cities, yes, in the second passage, but no in the first passage. These are, wait, did I do it backwards? I did. Yes and no. Because in the second passage, they are documenting before lost. Whereas here they are at risk of being destroyed. Who's focusing on not trying to keep them from being destroyed? Okay, if you remember correctly, the second passage was doing that. Double check and talk about it. But see, remember, they're choosing their sites based on at risk of being destroyed. Where is it? Right, it's underlined right here. Whereas the first passage, they were not. These were things they couldn't even find, so they weren't at risk of being destroyed because nobody even knew where they were. Therefore, that's not true. Okay, so this one's true for one passage, this one's for the other, this one's not true for either one, this one is true for both. This is why the chart really helps you keep it straight. Both of them go all over the world. Now, there's a lot of mention in Egypt for one of them, but they still didn't, they went to some places, other places. They go wherever the material is that they're going to either photograph or locate or whatever. Okay, once again, the key here is go back in the passage, do the extra work of a little chart like this, take the time to think this through. It shouldn't take 10 minutes like it did for me to explain it because I'm having to talk you through it. You in your head can do this very quickly.